Who is going to win the 2016 presidential election? This short lesson will talk about how that election is carried out. For you see, in the United States, we do not do a national election. We do an election made up of individual state elections. And the winner of each one of those states is added up, and that is what determines the national winner. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, we do it through, here we have the presidential election map. We do it through a process called the Electoral College. The Electoral College is set out in the United States Constitution. And the way that it works, well, first, before I tell you that, let me tell you the site I'm on. It is 270 to win. This is a 270towin.com. This is a website that dedicates itself to helping us understand elections. It has a lot of historical elections, so you can see how things happened in the past. And then it allows you to create your own idea of how you think the map will occur this particular year. So what I have done is I have set this map to 0 with nobody winning any state. And I'm doing that just so that you can see how the Electoral College works. So what the Electoral College does is it says that each state has a certain number of votes. And that number of votes is determined by, first, every state has at least 2 votes because we first add up the U.S. senators. And then we add to that the number of congressional representatives. Now we have several states that have the lowest possible number. We have Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, and North Dakota. Each one of these has a vote of 3, which means that they have 2 senators and 1 congressional representative. We add that up, we come up with 3. So if the presidential nominee of either party wins that state, then we are going to put a 3 in the plus column for that particular nominee. Notice that other states have larger amounts. Minnesota has 8 congressional representatives, 2 senators, totaling up to 10. Iowa, it has 4 congressional representatives, 2 senators, totaling up to 6. We also have much bigger states. We have Texas. Texas has 38 votes, and that's made up of 2 senators and 36 congressional representatives. California is the biggest. It has 55 total votes, 2 senators, 53 congressional representatives. Now notice as I have clicked on each one of these, what has happened. 270 to win has created a map so that I can create my own map of how I think the election is going to go. So for instance, if I think that Kansas is going to vote Democratic, I can click on it twice and it will turn blue, which is the number we've sort of designated for the Democrats, and 6 electoral votes will be put into the Democratic column. So here they are, and we can see that Clinton, by virtue of this particular map, now has 6 votes. Trump so far has none. What if Trump were to win California? Then Trump now has 55 votes, and those would all be put in his win column. Almost all of the states, it's a win or lose situation. Nebraska and Maine are slightly different, and you can see that down here. With Nebraska and Maine, they allow for there to be a split vote, and so that's reflected down here. So this is split on a congressional basis. So for instance, the overall winner is going to get the 2 senatorial votes plus 1 congressional vote. But let's say in Maine, where they have a total of 4, it could be that one of the congressional districts might go to one party and one would go to the other. So the one that wins the most is going to get the 2 senatorial votes and 1 congressional vote. And this state would allow for the other congressional district to be won by the other party and for them to get 1 vote. Nebraska, as we can see here, has 5 votes, and so they can be divvied out in this way. The biggest vote taker would get the 2 senators plus a congressional vote, and then we see how the other 2 split out. No other states have chosen to use this method. All of the rest, it's a winner-takes-all situation. So let's return this map back to 0. And there we are. Nobody has any votes. But we do know that there is history and there's precedent. We know that it is more likely that a certain party will win certain states. And here on PolitiFact, they have put together a little table to help us to understand that. So this was actually discussed by George Will, who's usually a conservative columnist. And what he is talking about here is that there are 18 states that have voted Democratic in the last 6 consecutive elections. And that creates a total of 242 electoral votes. Now, was that true? Well, PunditFact rated that as true, and this is actually just very easy to determine. If you were to go back to 270 to win and go back through the past 6 elections, then you could total up and see, well, did some states actually vote exactly the same in all 6 elections? And as it turns out, 18 of them did. Now, what elections are we talking about? So we're talking about the 2 Clinton elections, which is 1992, 1996. We're talking about the 2 George W. Bush elections, which were the year 2000 and the year 2004. And then we're talking about the 2 President Obama elections, which are 2008 and 2012. So what this is saying is 18 states in each of those 6 elections voted Democratic. Now, let's look at those states. Okay. This is moving extremely slow. Get it to go up a little bit. Okay, so here are the states that have voted Democratic since 1992. Now, notice there is exactly the same thing on the Republican side. Republican states that have voted Republican since 1992. So let's look at these. Okay, so we have got on the Democratic side, we've got California, Connecticut, D.C., Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Vermont, Washington State, and Wisconsin. And if we total up the Electoral College votes for each one of those states, we come up with 242. Now, not quite as many states have voted Republican consistently for those years. The states that have were Alabama, Alaska, Kansas, Idaho, Mississippi, Nebraska, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Texas, Utah, and Wyoming, with a total vote of 102. Now notice one of the distinctions is that although there are a number of states that have consistently voted Republican, they are, with the exception of Texas, states that are rather low population states. Big geography, like Alaska, like the Dakotas, like Utah, like Wyoming, big geographical areas, but they're not very densely populated, and that gives them low vote totals. So on the Republican side, we have only 10 states that have voted for all 6 elections as Republican, and for the most part, except for Texas again, they are small population states, and so their vote total is only 102. Well, let's see what that looks like if we were to pop that into an electoral map. So here was our blank electoral map. Let's now take the information that we have just gotten from that previous graphic and see what that looks like. And so I have gone through and put all of those states into this map to let us see what those historical elections tell us. Now, here they are. We've got the blue states that are here in the Northeast, in the Midwest, and on the West Coast. And then we have several states in the South on the Republican side. We have all of the central states that have voted Republican, and then several in the West that have voted Republican. Now, it's very noteworthy that there are quite a number of states that have not voted consistently for either party. And of course, Florida is very noteworthy. That particular state determined the 2000 election. Okay, but let's look at all of this. Now, if we look at these states that have not voted consistently, we can see that they are 194 electoral votes. So we've got 242 that have voted consistently Democrat, 102 that have voted consistently Republican, and then 194 that have voted for both parties. So that's where we're going to leave our lesson today. If I were to look at this, then I would have to say advantage to the Democrats, but there are certainly enough votes out there for the Republicans to win. And of course, in the 6 elections that we're talking about, Republicans under George W. Bush did win. And so it is by no means a determined situation, a predetermined situation. So anyway, thank you for listening, and we will talk more about the Electoral College next time. Have a great day.